All right, everyone want to turn on their mics? Looks like the technical issue has been solved to a satisfactory level to continue or to start the meeting. So with that, I will call this meeting for the Dunsmuir City Council on October 3rd, 2024 into order at 6:16 p.m. If everyone could please stand for the flag salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
All right, with that, we'll proceed on to roll call.
Councilmember Keisler.
Here.
Councilmember Deutsch.
Here.
Councilmember Bryan. Councilmember Lucchese.
Here.
And Mayor Clarno.
Here. All right, with that, we'll move on to special presentations and announcements, of which we have none tonight. So we'll move on to item number 4, public comment. This is a time for members of the public to address the City Council on matters relating to city business. Everyone will have 3 minutes and 3 minutes to address the council. I'll give a 30-second warning when your time is almost up. We'll do individuals in the room first, followed by Zoom. I do ask tonight, that we have 2 opportunities to discuss the solid waste rate, and I'd like to get to that as quickly as possible. So for public comment, you will have 2 opportunities, one under item number 9 and one under item number 11. And I know everyone here wants to get to that item as quickly as possible since it's the main reason we're all here tonight. So with that, I do ask that you keep public comment off that item until we get to those 2 places where we'll have dedicated time to talk about that, just so we can get to those 2 items as quickly as possible. And with that, I will open up for public comment.
Yeah. Here. Pass them down.
It's on, right? All right. 5836 Dunsmuir Avenue. It's Jake Gress. Today I went in to pay for my permit for a client, and I noticed that James McIntyre is, of course, still working for the city of Dunsmuir, and he's been fired for probably 4 months now, supposedly. And then I noticed the evaluation for the project is at $70,000, and that's what he's basing the permit on. My quote is on the next page. Its actual job cost is $37,000. And when I walked in, met with Wendy, she asked the cost. I said, it's about 35 grand. And that's how they base the permits on. So James McIntyre blatantly doubled the cost of that to raise the permit fee for my client. And to me, when you understand his contract and you go through it, because that was made public when he got fired, he gets a base salary of $17,000. He gets, after that $17,000, 60% of every dollar of every permit money paid to the city. So that enables him to basically be corrupt, charge as much as he wants, to get as much money in his pocket, and then that also goes to the city, 40% of that. So you got a guy in here still doing this stuff. You can go to ICC Safe, and how the inspection process works is you submit them, you tell them the cost, and if they question whether or not that cost is correct or not, they can ask you, because they have ways of referencing that. On an ICC Safe, look there, you get the demographic on there, they can look up cost per foot to build something in this area. It's very, very simple to do. If he looked at that and it was $70,000 and my quote's $37,000, he might have a question, and that's okay. Call, tell me to bring proof, whatever, or just hear me say, this is the cost. He writes $37,000 down there. Now, what concerns me is, how long has he been doing this? How many different people has he been overcharging for the time that he's been here? How many times he's been basically corrupt and stealing from these people, and then it enables not only himself to profit, and how long has the city known about this? How long has the city manager known about this? So if it's 40% more for the city, they allow that so they get more funds for free. So to me, it feels like based on everything I'm hearing around this town, that's another avenue for potential for corruption. And then me being down here a lot, I'm not saying it's retaliation, but it definitely feels like he's charging more because I've been the key person coming down here complaining about James McIntyre consistently to get rid of this guy because he doesn't know what he's doing.
30
And-
seconds.
And that's basically what I'm trying to get at. And if I was to say, go down there and do a FOIA and pull the last 3 years and talk to every single person and how much they had to spend and what the actual cost for the project was, you got to wonder how much the city is going to have to reimburse everybody. It's how I view it. So something to think about.
Thank you.
Doy Bailey, 5906 Castle. I will also confirm that that happened to me. And how it was, and I've discussed this before, that just getting rid of McIntyre does not solve the issue. Part of the issue is when you walk in to apply for a permit, the very thing was, I was asked how much I was going to spend. I said, it's not any of your business, I feel. I did state the amount of money that I received from insurance. That was written down, and that would be the cost of that permit. Last Friday, I believe, was the last day that we had for another permit person to apply for that job. When do we get a planner? Somebody that can do the job?
Thank you.
Good evening, council members and members of the public. My name, are we on? Good. Is Peter Arth. I live at 5859 Sacramento Avenue in the city of Dunsmuir. I am concerned with the state of your agenda, particularly that part that says future agenda items. On the agenda I have seen, it is blank. It was blank at your last meeting. And it leads me to wonder if you're following the protocols that we all voted for several years ago, where you have a pre-agenda meeting with rotating members of the city council and the mayor and the city manager, because it seems to me if you were following the protocols, the issue of the city's dewatering of Bradley Creek, you had a number of citizens who respectfully addressed you and said, this is not good for the city, its tourists, its residents, and there was some talk of, oh, let's put it on the next agenda. Well, that never happened. And then there's the long-running issue of the oversight of our historic district and the terrible condition of several of the empty and abandoned buildings in our commercial core downtown area. And here I would like to direct you to a staff memo that was prepared by Todd city manager, January 7th, 2021. You could do the math. And the topic, what is being asked of the city council? The city council is being asked to discuss the history and the proposed approach for managing the condition of buildings in the historic district. And I will skip to the recommendations. Recommendation 2. It's staff's contention that the biggest issue facing the city are the number of vacant and distressed buildings throughout the city and especially in the historic district. It is the major issue impacting the lack of economic development and continuance of blight in the downtown core. Staff's recommendation is to vigorously enforce the vacant and distressed building ordinance once a COVID vaccine is in wide circulation, and enforcement could commence at the direction of the city attorney. Recommendation 3. It is also the recommendation of the staff to revisit the
30 seconds.
recommendations of the March 5, 2009 council meeting to resume enforcement of the Dunsmuir Historic District Strategic Revitalization Plan, which I had some major role in putting together. This meeting would involve developing new enforcement checklists to be brought before the next council meeting for approval. Once approved by the council, the checklist would be brought before the planning commission for their endorsement. You have a city manager.
Peter,
You have a
time's up, Peter.
city attorney.
Time's up, Peter.
Do something.
Thank you.
I wanted to respond to Peter.
No, talk to them.
I'm talking to them. Peter comes from the perspective, as a lawyer, fight. It's it's not to anyone's benefit to be fighting. It's to everyone's benefit to be working together. If you look at the underlying things, if you look at what Jake just said about the challenges he was having trying to get building permits, really the underlying is if we could all work together, we could do this. Peter is a master of portraying things and deceptively making things look worse or creating the problems, but making it sound like things aren't getting done. And if you just worked with the property owners in a way that said, what can we do collectively to work together for the betterment of everybody? And there was efforts put in place where property owners were brought together, and there was people here, people that came in the council that are working towards that. That is the solution. And that's the magic of the small community, are people working together, not trying to ruin them or force them but force them to do something, but rather in working for the benefit of everybody. Nobody's sitting there wanting distressed buildings, as he's claiming, but when it's made very difficult to get the buildings fixed, it's a challenge. And when he's just talking about things being far worse than they really are, that doesn't help things either. Be factual, be real, and work together for everyone's sake. And I think this is a brilliant council. I just like to see you guys work in a way that helps everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Thanks, Dave. Allison Lashevsky, River Avenue. I too have made several comments about the future agenda items up here, and I understand, Peter, how frustrating it is to be part of a committee and then have nothing done about it. I was part of the snow removal committee last winter, and nothing was done about that. Anyways, that's not why I'm here. I'm here to revisit last October, this week actually, a year ago, a proclamation of hate, proclamation against hate that the city signed. And I made public comment at that meeting too. I found it ironic that that was the same week that Israel was violently attacked during a ceasefire and hostages were taken. And a year later this week, many of those Jewish hostages are still missing and dead. And we proclaimed here a year ago as a small town that we wanted to combat hatred. And we proclaimed that education is the key to unlocking understanding. So I thought I'd take 3 minutes here. This is a very important week for Jewish people. It's called the High Holidays. It's a lot more high than most days for me. You know, Rosh Hashanah is the Jewish New Year. That was yesterday. It's the year 5785 in the Jewish calendar. And Jews celebrate by baking challah in a round shape. It symbolizes the cycle of the year. They eat apples and honey to symbolize sweetness of the new year, and pomegranate because it's full of seeds, which makes us all full of hope. And then there's Yom Kippur. It's in about a week or so. It practices forgiveness, where friends and neighbors and communities, they come together, they ask for and accept forgiveness from one another. There's actually a ritual on Yom Kippur where you throw breadcrumbs into a body of water for the fish, and it symbolizes kind of like the wiping out of the inequities of humanity. So the trout will certainly be well fed from me this Yom Kippur. It's also a holiday that focuses on setting intentions and goals, which sort of brings me back to wondering why there's no future agenda items. Anyways, for now, I wish you all a happy and healthy new year, a sweet and a fruitful one. Thank you all for your service to the city of Dunsmuir. Thank you all for being so engaged and informed as citizens. I think that's great. God bless our town, and God bless the Jewish state of Israel. Thank you.
Thank you. If you would like to make a comment on Zoom, we do have 1 or 2 more people in the room, but if you could go to the reactions tab and raise your hand to signify you would like to make a comment. For those protests, they go over to Wendy. Okay. If it's about the rates though, yeah.
Hi, to address the issue concerning the water tank overflow.
Who are you?
Now impacted by new state water accounting regulations. This stream was not only a scenic attraction that boosted local tourism, but it is also an emblem of our town's heritage, flowing over 120 years. As a community member whose business depends on visitors, I have seen firsthand the disappointment when tourists see where the water once flowed freely. This change affects our economy and our identity. Perhaps there is a way to comply with the state requirements while preserving this landmark? Could we explore options for measuring the water flow in a manner that keeps this tradition alive? It's crucial for us to honor the legacy of our predecessors by integrating our history with innovative solutions. Let's ensure our progress is a tribute to those who came before us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Iris Wilson. Hi, City Council. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for your service. I really mean that. I wanted to just make a comment about the creek because I was really hoping, because it means a lot to me, and I'm really hoping that we can come to some kind of compromise that will work for y'all and where we can keep our creek. And I'm coming today, I'm gonna keep coming and making a comment so that we can keep this. So it's so important. Everyone I talk to who lives on my street and on the streets and the whole way down from Castle all the way down completely is bummed. And so I'm just coming to make sure that that's heard. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Well played, well
And
played.
Kate, before you go, if I could just ask everyone who's in the room today just to check your cell phones, make sure they're on vibrate, so that way it doesn't interrupt anyone who's speaking. So thank you. And all you.
Hi, I'm Kate. I live at 4403 Oak Street. I'm here to complain about the creek shut off. I didn't have enough time last week to share the little story of Hedge Creek Falls, which we all know and love, which the state was going to shut off when they built the new freeway. And two citizens of Dunsmuir stood up and said, actually, that's not just a drainage ditch to us, that's our waterfall, and it's really important to us. And because of that, and some hard work, took a little work, the state of California said, okay, we will build a freeway around your waterfalls and we will save it. There are things that we can do to get the state to work with us. It's not just, here's the rule, follow the rule, bam. Like we can actually move beyond law and order and have a conversation with people at the state level. I really believe that this is your job to interface for us with the state around rules that actually make no sense. This rule makes literally no sense. The water is still going to the river. The same amount of water is going into the river just upstream. And one more thing, I went to a Main Street America conference with 70 people from all over California, up and down, and we had a placemaking activity where we all built, we broke up into teams and we built our ideal downtown. And every single table had water flowing through their ideal downtown. And I said at that meeting, you know, I bet Dunsmuir is one of the only towns here right now that actually has water flowing through. It is so important to us in a myriad of ways, and I really hope the council will consider acting on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good, I'm Darrell Phillips at 5212 Florence Loop, and during the previous meeting, I brought up the issue of the seismic situation in Dunsmuir with regards to the historic buildings downtown, and I did a little research after the meeting and found that a 9.0 subduction zone earthquake off the coast of California or Oregon would result in a 7.0 earthquake here in Dunsmuir. And so probably what needs to be done in terms of redevelopment of downtown is to triage the buildings based on their seismic condition on the unreinforced masonry and things of that sort, and then use that triage as a decision point for which buildings to keep, which buildings to tear down, which buildings to renovate, and so on. I'd like some additional information regarding the details on SB 1383 and how we're going to handle it. So apparently they want to increase recovery of food and land waste. And so what I like information on is where that's going to be composted. Is that going to be composted up in Black Butte or in town? And because those details will impact our options for cost effectively managing that bill. And I'd like some information regarding why the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund is in the red. And also, is it possible for us to just pay for this street sweeper by holding some kind of a raffle or donations or something like that? Thank you.
Thank you. And I do have to ask everyone that since we do have that item on the agenda, to please save comments for the 2 dedicated public comment times for the Solid Waste Fund.
Hi, good evening, Debbie Spagnolo, 4120 Eder. I've been here for the last 36, 38 years. You're probably all tired of hearing me say that I come up here and all I do is talk about Mark Allen. Here I go again. Okay, you, Mayor, from what I've read, pretty much determines who gets on the agenda, and I'm still not on the agenda, and I've been doing this since February of this year after Mark Allen illegally took my car off my property. Well, Mr. Kennedy, the city attorney, the one that we don't pay $498 an hour to, and I've had some conversations in that he asked me if I have a claim against you guys for this Mark Allen situation and illegal procedures. I told him no, I want to resolve the Mark Allen illegal actions in front of the city council and the public. Everybody needs to know what's going on here. I found out today some things that really shocked me, and I'll go on. I now prove Mark Allen is a liar, bold-faced liar, okay? He has mistreated me, disrespected me, he's lied to me, and he's threatened me. So now it's time the court is involved. Soon and finally, all the truth will be out, and all of you are part of his wrongdoings. Also, his license plate has a dealer on it, says dealer on it. I reported that to the DMV. I also have filed a complaint with the grand jury, waiting to hear from them. It's well overdue in time that all of you are held accountable and end this non-transparent illegal behavior and actions and misuse of your power, and it needs to be stopped. This council and manager need to be wiped out or rerouted in their brain, or to let new definitions of truth need to come out, and for a clean start for Dunsmuir, so they will start again. And that's about it I have to say about Mark Allen. He needs to be fired, what he's done to me, and it's gonna come out in court, and everybody's gonna get a real eye-opener. And it's the truth, because you know what, people? I don't lie. I don't need to lie, and I research. And I look up everything, and I ask questions, and none of these people here who are supposed to be professionals have never once answered me, called me, or anything, or told me to go to hell. Well, tonight, I've found out something that you guys are really real surprised about. And it's not pretty. In ending, I hope the rate for the increase of sewer waste fails.
30 seconds.
And thank you, and I hope this town wakes up like it used to be, because I love living here, and the way things are going, it's not pretty.
Thank you.
Greetings, fellow volunteers. Alan Clother, 4409 Oak Street. This is a delinquent thank you for renewing our grant for Second Saturday. I know that happened probably in early August, right around Brewfest, and we have been busy with all manner of city stuff. It's been an exciting last couple of months. Love having Kate leading the chamber. We've had 2 roundtables with businesses together, talking about the excitement they have for bringing new life downtown. The last roundtable that Kate hosted included a placemaking exercise. Michael, you had some fun with that. Yeah. And we've gathered a lot of great information as well as some feedback for the revitalization report. So I encourage you all to take a look at that. I'm excited for our future. I'm excited for the energy that we've got building. Part of the Second Saturday movement is partnering more closely with the Chamber of Commerce and taking that to the next level. And a good part of that is thanks to you guys supporting us and doing that work. So look for great new events on Second Saturdays. I think it's cool. We've got Dunsmuir and Be Kind all doing openings with Siskiyou Arts Museum at the same time. New life downtown with live music and food, new places opening. So be encouraged. Want to invite everybody to the next Second Saturday event, October 12th. Siskiyou Arts Museum will be hosting the artists supporting SAM. All of the artwork in the front gallery is donated artwork. All of the proceeds will go to help us buy our building. We are about a little over halfway to the goal of $200,000 to purchase that building so that it's a permanent fixture for us here in Dunsmuir. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, is there any further public comment in the room or on Zoom this evening? See? There'll be time for that. All right, with that, I will close general public comment this evening. And we'll move on to council and staff comments. We don't have a representative from the sheriff here tonight, so City Manager Reed.
All right, Mayor and Council, over the last couple of weeks, I've met with the Chamber, Kate Clother, a couple times, and also met with some building and business owners in downtown. I met Tassi, Mark Juarez, and Garrett Ball. Staff has been working on our public works. They cleaned the headworks. We're starting drain cleaning and street sweeping leading into winter months here. So we'll be out doing that over the next month or so. We did receive our building official RFPs on Friday, and we'll be reviewing and interviewing those and bring that back hopefully in November. Preparing for Green Waste Day, October 19th. And I think Stephen's looking, he's got some volunteers, but they're looking for anybody who has the need that they can't get their properties cleaned up or whatever, to contact Stephen at City Hall, and he might be able to help you out and get some of that green waste taken care of. We've started audit preparation. Brandstetter, the south end of the bottom end of Brandstetter will be closed tomorrow, and doing that road project has started, so they have done work on that upper half, and now they're going to start doing some work on the bottom half, as well as work on Hope and Apple, and then we should be seeing some pavement being laid here in the next couple weeks. And then the wastewater collection project is kind of all over town. That's to start in November. And then I want to thank the community for all of the downtown surveys. We had probably, how many did we have, Blake? Did you count them? Probably excess of 200? 100? About 170 actually hand filled out surveys, and we sent the last of those over yesterday for compilation, and then Cosmon will come back in November to present the results of those. And that's all I have.
Councilmember Lucchese.
Oh, I had a question for the, I forget the name of the street, it just blew my mind, lost my mind, but that light pole.
On Hazel?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Can we have that, what's the process for working through that?
We'll have to do a budget amendment. One of the things, so what Councilmember Deutsch is asking, so there was a request for a street light on Hazel Street, and it's not a current street light. There hasn't been one in place. And so in order to install that, we got a quote from Pacific Power and to get it connected, and that was like $3,100. We don't have anything in our budget to allow for that. And there's also other areas of town that also don't have those, up on Siskiyou, and then that Mountain Estates area also doesn't have streetlights. So that's something we can consider, and then we'll have to do a budget amendment in order to make that happen.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure we got some movement on that, because she's worried about people stopping there and safety and all that. So thanks.
I understand. We'll bring it back to Finance Committee to
Thank you.
discuss.
Councilmember Lucchese.
Thank you. So I met with a couple of members of the community on our Veterans Day event, and even though we had a very lovely Veterans Day event last November 11th, we'll be doing that again this year. It is a Monday, and so please stay tuned for some flyers that we'll be putting out into the community. We typically meet at the Eagles and then walk over to the cemetery for a short little reception just to remember veterans and honor that service. And then we'll be going back, and there will be a student essay contest again this year. I think that went really well last year, so really excited to go forward through that. Just on the future agenda items, I believe at the last regular meeting, we did have a pretty comprehensive list of future agenda items. Not sure where they went today, but we are still working on a number of those as we move forward. So please just stay tuned for that. And then I just realized this is not on, but hopefully I'm projecting enough. I apologize. And just working on a couple, there's 2 big grants that are due in the middle of October, one for housing and one for transportation. Both of those are related to implementing our housing element and our active transportation plan. So going through the projects that were recommended in those and finding funding for them. Primarily for the transportation grant, it would be a proposal to improve the street going up to the high school for that type of grant. It's a reconnecting communities grant, so it has to do with reconnecting communities that have been bifurcated by interstate projects, which we fit that quite comprehensively. So working on those, and they're taking up a lot of time, so I do not have any other projects to discuss.
Councilmember Keisler.
I'm very concerned about something that was said here tonight. I would like to ask my city attorney, is it legal for a building inspector to change the dynamics of a contract to increase the price of a permit?
If that's a question to me, I'm not prepared to answer that. I have to know a lot more facts. We've heard one statement. I don't know what the facts are, and it's always good to get all the information before you make a decision.
Well, we're going to get you all the information, and I'm going to be in contact with you. As a contractor, this is it's appalling. So I've already made a phone call to my county supervisor, and we're in contact with the district attorney tomorrow. But I'm putting it as the city attorney. I'm asking you if you could help me find the answer to that question, sir.
I'll be happy to look at it if people give me the information.
You the bomb. Thank you. That's all I got.
Councilmember Deutsch.
Thank you. The one thing I wanted to share was something really exciting that kind of grew out of the Building Dunsmuir's Future event back in May, and that has to do with history. And I had mentioned this before at the council meeting that we're going to be working on an oral history project. And I worked with Ray Keller, and Ray invited me over yesterday to meet with both the social studies and English teachers, and also one of the senior leaders of the school there. And so the project that we've all come up with is really exciting. And in fact, it was interesting because in talking to them, they had some ideas I hadn't thought of, and it was great. So here's the idea. We're looking at identifying people who lived here, were aware, older than, let's say, 10 years old in 1965. We look at 1965 as the year that the steam engines left and Dunsmuir essentially began dying from that loss. And so what we're looking at doing is identifying all the people in town, both through the resource center and through the library and through other ways. But the point is that what we'll be working towards is both the English and social studies teachers, units 3 and 4 in the day, will for a week turn over, and this is next semester, to running through, ideally in a week, 25 different interviews with 5 different teams at one time, working on 5 different people being interviewed each day. So imagine that we bring in some 80 years old people and whatever, and we'll have a team of students, 5 of the high school. We'll welcome them, make them feel comfortable. There'll be a camera to record them, and there'll be pictures that we've had. And so that'll be going on. And so there'll be more information on that. And I know we've had a couple of people reach out and want to be a part of it. But to me, it's really exciting, especially with the young student that was there and her excitement about this. This to me is kind of a sacred task to be able to take the history of people who lived through this town when it was vibrant and exciting and pass it on to the next generation. And so one of the things we're going to do is have all those students sit in with Ron McLeod and give them a story through all the pictures, and then they'll be able to then start taking ownership of the stories they want to ask about when they're working with the people being interviewed. So this is something I'm really excited about, and the idea is to eventually have it on a library website that's kind of in concept right now, so that people in the future will be able to look at these photos and have people that were actually there, hear them talking, hear the stories they tell, and so that's something we're working on out of that. That's all I have.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Bryan.
Keep it fairly short. I do respect everyone for coming here tonight, and I'm looking forward to listening to you more than speaking. I just wanted to just kind of express my confusion and surprise that so many months later, Mr. McIntyre is still working for the city. We were in contract some months ago. I was under the impression that we were going to be transferring over to the county. There was some small hiccup with that 2 months ago, but that would be resolved by now. Is the county no longer involved, or? Sorry.
There's a hiccup with the issuing of permits and not with the inspection component. The county is going to do the inspection component.
Well, I guess
And so I'm working through that.
Maybe I'll save it for future agenda, but I'd like an update on where we've been, because I'm surprised to find out he's still an our employee.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's appropriate, but I'd like to be updated on the situation.
That it?
That's it.
Cool. All right, I'm going to try to keep this short too, so we can get on to the reason everybody's here tonight. First off, I'd just like to thank Kate Clother down at the Chamber for the business roundtable that you put on. It was an excellent event, went over great. Next is the Rigatoni dinner is on October 12th. Be aware there's been a mountain lion wandering around North Dunsmuir. It's been caught on a couple cameras. No big surprise for this town, but it's one of the bigger ones I've seen in a while. And then lastly, due to the fact that there will not be a quorum, there will be no October 17th council meeting. And with that, we will move on to committee reports, which I do not believe there was one this time. Nope. All right, so we will move on to approval of the minutes. There is a typo on the agenda. These are actually the minutes of September 19th. It does say that on the minutes, but it does not say that on the front page. So do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of September 19th?
So moved. Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes passed. We have one thing on the consent agenda today, which is the check register for 9/14 through 9/24 of 2024.
Motion to adopt consent agenda.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Consent agenda adopted. All right, with that, we'll move on to item number 9, public hearing, which consists of one item today, Proposition 218 rate protest hearing for customers to protest an increase to solid waste rate effective 11/1/2024. So the purpose of this public hearing is to hear from the constituents and also to count and take a look at the written protests that have been turned in. Little brain skip there. There is one thing I'd like to say before we move on to the city staff is myself, along with the finance chair, the city manager, talked with the city attorney. While we are discussing everything today, as some of you may know, one of the main, there was 3 main purposes of this rate increase. One was to tackle the deficit that has been built up in this particular fund. Number 2 was to deal with the massive increase in costs caused by a state law that was going to take effect in 2027. And the last was the acquisition of a new street sweeper. On Saturday, or on September 22nd of 2024, which is after we published these agenda, AB 2902 was passed and then approved by the governor, which extends those state requirements for recycling and green waste out to 2027. So
2037.
2037.
12 years.
So basically, it takes the mandate we were looking at in 2027 and moves it out to 2037. Now, the purpose of a 218 rate hearing is we need to demonstrate that the rates that we are proposing meet the costs and cover the costs. So since as of 2027, that is no longer the case, it was advised that legally and also morally and ethically, that we should not be looking at the rate increases for 2027, 2028, or 2029. So therefore, when we get to the rate increase portion of today, and also just this entire thing in general, we will only be looking at rates for 2024 and 2025 as they have been proposed, not 2027 or through 2029. And since the street sweeper rate increase was in year 2028, that means we will not be looking at the purchasing or the rates associated with purchasing a new street sweeper today. That would have to go through a completely separate 218 process.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
I think you've,
Before we move on to staff, yeah.
Excuse me. The one thing I did want to answer to somebody who asked is why we have a deficit. What happened was, I think about 4 years ago or so, there was actually a surplus in there, and it got enlarged because of different things. But that's why we actually lowered the rates so that you weren't having to pay those as we brought down the surplus that was in that account. And unfortunately, in that process and government and changes and everything, we didn't have the wherewithal or the foresight to realize we need to stop and change the rates. So I just want to point out that was the reason, and in a way, you got a chance to get less payments for a while, and all we're doing right now is recognizing what the costs are going forward.
And I believe that was in 2018, so 6 years ago.
6 years ago.
yeah, I just wanted to clarify for anyone listening closely. You mentioned 2029 many times, or several times. It's 2024, 25, 26, 27, 28, and the fiscal year starting that July.
So I apologize.
Yeah, I think he was referring to fiscal years and not, I was.
Yeah, I was
clarifying.
referring, so it's
Okay.
2026, 2027, 2008. This, for those of you who are unaware, the city operates on a fiscal year, which is different than a calendar year. So sometimes when you're listing off years, it can.
And I might add one more item just for the benefit of the public. The city's been working, I mean, as small as Dunsmuir is, we have put our strong recommendation request into the state, and we're part of a larger organization called Cal Cities, or the League of California Cities, as they used to be known. They've been working hard to help us secure this rural exemption. In addition to that, I think the JPA with the county has also expressed the impossibility of meeting those standards. So this is a rare case of the state actually listening to rural jurisdictions and not forcing us to meet their unfunded mandates. So we're very happy with that.
Yeah, and once again, I would just like to thank Cal Cities. They put a lot of work into this. So with that, we'll move on to the staff. We'll get to public comment here in a few minutes. Yeah. So unfortunately, the way the Brown Act makes us run the meetings, just so the public's aware, when we get to public comment, members of the public have the opportunity to ask us questions. We can't interrupt any time. However, and then after all the public is done, we can come back around and answer any questions that are answered. So I'll be more than happy to answer questions when the Brown Act allows. So, all right, and with that, we'll move on to staff.
All right, Mayor and Council, as mentioned here just momentarily ago, we had issued the staff report and published the agenda, and then we were notified somewhere in the middle of that that the AB 2902 was adopted. And so I have provided a supplementary information to the City Council to assist in making their decision tonight. So while most of you are here, the purpose of this item is to take public comment and receive and count protest ballots regarding solid waste utility rate increases And if protest ballots are insufficient and the council votes via a simple majority to adopt the resolution, increase of solid waste rates will be effective November 1st. The annual increase for the original staff report said 5, but that'll be up to the council on that decision here when we come to that item. So the city council, staff, solid waste committee, finance committee, and MSW consultants have worked together starting last year to provide solid waste rates that provide necessary revenues to operate and adhere to solid waste rules and regulations according to the changing state laws. To implement these rates, the Proposition 218 protest election process is required by state law. All efforts were made to contact all eligible to vote in this election. If sufficient protests are received, current rates will continue to be charged and the solid waste utility will be jeopardized financially. If the protest election is not successful, the new rate resolution can be adopted and improvements to the solid waste system will be provided. And then we go on to AB 2982. As mentioned, that was adopted and signed into law by the governor on September 22nd, 2024, which is towards the end of the protest period since we published that to all the residents, which was received by mail. The city, just for some additional background information, the solid waste enterprise handles community solid waste needs, which includes a contract with Clemens to provide waste hauling services. Additionally, the city internally, we administer all the billing, set up new customers. We handle vegetation management, street sweeping, and the collection of trash from the downtown and the parks. And we also offer our green waste days in the spring and fall. Currently, the solid waste enterprise covers approximately 13 hours of maintenance per week. From its cost, the additional cost is covered by the general fund, so it does not cover all of the cost. It has been supplemented by the general fund for some time. And the adoption of AB 2902 has extended the implementation requirements for the green waste and the recycling component, which has been something that's been a challenge and covers. So the green waste component is the woody waste and then all food materials and the recovery of food from restaurants and other organizations that produce high food amounts. And since that has taken into account, staff is recommending that the city council adopt only 2 years of the 5-year rate study. It has been confirmed with the MSW, our consultants, that the first 2 rates were not impacted by the purchase of the street sweeper or the implementation of SB 1383, which has now been extended. And so, is that?
All right.
Any questions?
Do we have MSW with us tonight?
We do not. They are we have surpassed the end of their contract and their time, and they also had a conflict. So.
All right, any other questions from council? All right, seeing none, we will open this public hearing. So this is a time for you as members of the public. On that note, thank everyone so much for coming out here today. We'll be doing the count after the comments. Yep. So, where was I? Thanks everyone for coming out tonight to give public input. We'll be doing public comment, and then we'll be doing a count and taking a look at the protests. With that, I will open this up for public comment. Like general public comment, we'll be doing members of the public first who are here, followed by members on Zoom who would like to make a comment. If you would like to make a comment on Zoom, please go to the reaction tab and raise your hand. With that, everyone will have 3 minutes. I will give a 30-second warning, and I do ask that you keep your public comment limited to this particular topic. Tonight, I don't think that will be a challenge for anybody. So, all right, with that, I will open up public comment for this evening. And just a reminder here, we do also have an item, business item number 11, where we will be discussing rate increases if the count does not, or if the protest count does not meet the required levels. So therefore, there may be an opportunity for everyone to make a second public comment on this item. All right, with that, we'll open it up.
Roy Bailey, 5906 Castle Avenue. I'd like to start out tonight by saying I'd like to thank the members of the citizen members of the Finance Committee. They were given a tough job to do. They were given facts. The fact was the rate study had little to do with actual implementation. They were given what we planned on doing, buying a truck, giving the guy $70,000 a year to drive the truck, etc., and let's throw in a thing. I'd also like this point like to thank the members of this committee that have funded the solid waste program for a number of years. I think it's important, it is coming up again, and I'd just like to publicly thank the members of this body who worked on that. At this point, AB, the new law, it states already, last Wednesday when the agenda came out, it already said in the whereases that it was the protest was insignificant. I'm here to tell you tonight that the people that signed that document are the most significant people in this town. Government is ran by the people who showed up, and these people showed up. And I'd like to thank them for that. As you stated, it is a new law. Nothing that we were going to do before, which is move our solid waste 10 miles to be burnt in fire training, had nothing to do with saving anything on the planet. It had nothing to do with anything else. Our plan was a failed plan from the gate. We have a new plan. You all read this plan, by the way. I was told that I could give you a copy of it, but I could not make you read it. That's why I asked the question. And so I'd like each one of you guys to vote, tell me whether or not you read that. That's very important. But in this, it has a lot of good things, none of which involved burning our solid waste. Okay. It mentioned things like mushroom compost. It mentioned things like feeding animals the day-old bread, etc. Feeding to reduce the amount of weight. Right now in America, 30% of all food products go to waste. That is a concern nationwide. But it also had in this, it had penalties involved for not complying with the law. Civil penalties. I hope that you read that. I also would like to say that it also talked about one thing that maybe I heard a little bit tonight, but I haven't heard it in the past. That was good faith. It actually defines what good faith is.
30 seconds.
I think passing this with anything other than good faith is wrong. The last thing it says on page, the new law, it says, how the project may benefit disadvantaged and low-income communities. And I've seen very little of input that showed any advantage to the citizens of Dunsmuir.
Thank you.
My name's Adam Heilman. I live at 6118 Beverly Way here in Dunsmuir. I've lived here since 1977. I grew up here. Can any of the council members raise their hand if they've been here longer than me? I'm seeing none. Okay. There has been a long-standing issue that I remember having discussions as a kid with my father, who was the auditor for the city. And the things he discussed was the city's tendency to want to dip into enterprise funds however they could to suck every dime out of it. And I am suspicious that the deficit in the solid waste fund is due to that very same fact. The solid waste fund, I am relatively certain, however I could be proven wrong, is typically called the garbage fund in most other cities that I've looked at. That fund is dedicated for the collection of garbage. How it turned into street sweeping, I don't know. How it turned into employee salaries, I don't know. Should there be administrative costs for the billing? Absolutely. Should there be a portion of the Public Works building funded by it? Absolutely not, unless Clemens plans to park their trucks in there. The bottom line is that enterprise funds, from what I've been reading, appear to be for services provided that are specific to properties. Sweeping the street is a general service. Anybody can drive on that street. Anybody cannot come in and grab garbage out of my house. I believe that you as council members were given a golden off-ramp by the governor to get you out of what would have been a terrible mess. What I don't understand is how it can be at all possible that the protest letters that are being submitted based on information that was disseminated that is now not accurate can be valid. The simple fact is, it may be quite likely that several of those people would withdraw their protests with your course of action, and that's not what was disseminated to them. You need to stop this immediately.
Time's up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Perry Narcissa Summers. I live at 5316 River Avenue here in Dunsmuir. And I have a little bit of history with the situation of the sewer, water, and garbage because I was selected to be one of the members on a committee to advise the city council about, and the city about what should be done with the different aspects of this same problem. It didn't involve a street sweeper at that time. I would like to mention that I feel that very strongly that for Dunsmuir to attract people to want to live in this town, it might be a good idea to repair the streets, the horrible potholes that practically knock out the undercarriage of your vehicle as you're driving on the street. I think that would be more important than sweeping the streets. And I think the street sweeper we have could employ someone to repair it and whatever's necessary on that level. But many years ago, when a lot of the sewer and water problems were supposed to be mitigated and this committee was formed, it was often interrupted. I presented an example and color copies of information about an example of how to mitigate the storm sewer drain problem by creating at local street corners to dig out the cement and layer different levels of materials like sand and gravel and charcoal and other things that would filter the storm drains so that the oil and things from vehicles would not go into the river. And also planting on that same area, lovely plants that were
30 seconds.
It's called phytoremediation, where you plant things which will suck toxins into the plants from the roots and not let them go into the river. But that was ignored, and I had to drop out of the committee because I was not able to hear, which is still
problem for me, and the city still hasn't dealt with the kind of hearing mechanism that would make it so that many of the people here in Dunsmuir could hear.
On that note, your time's up. Your time's
She
up.
don't hear the bell.
I know. I was letting her know though, because she can't. The 3 minutes are up.
My 3 minutes are up.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Tiris Wilson. I live at 5715 Castle Avenue, and thanks for your service. I was looking at the way that, I mean, it's kind of changed now because of what you just said, the way it's been changed, but I think it's crazy that it was gonna be like, go up like three times in just 4 years, which was way more than people get raises at work. And so I think that's insane. Also, I'd like to say that if we could figure out, and that if y'all do need a new street sweeper, if we figure out another way, rather than it coming from that way. And I was thinking that maybe the Airbnb money, which I think is maybe, because I know that they pay fees, so if it could come from that, I think that that would be like maybe a plus of people who live here could get, kind of get a benefit of that. So it's a community benefit. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, Hannah Smith. I'm at 6118 Cherry Street. I had some concerns about the solid waste rate study also. I thought some of the data was questionable and maybe didn't actually reflect our actual needs. And then I also got my hands on the solid waste study from 2019 from Pace Engineering, where they recommend separating street sweeping and tree trimming. And I'm happy to read that part out loud so everyone can hear. It says, historically, the city has provided street sweeping and tree trimming services from the solid waste fund. On advice from the city's legal counsel, it is recommended these services be removed from the solid waste fund. That's all.
Thank you.
Still Peter Arth. My main concern is, I understand the politics behind the state saying this was an unrealistic mandate to put on rural communities like Dunsmuir, but I'm afraid it's going to lull us into a sense of complacency. That is, and I don't know what issues your solid waste committee is talking about, but every week I now put all of my solid waste into, I have 2 black bins that I pay for. All of my aluminum, all of my glass, all of my tree trimmings and green waste, and most notoriously, all of my plastic. And, you know, what we've seen in the past few months is the disappearance of the Blue Bag program, the disappearance of the bins that were located across the street and at City Park. We're a community that has a river that runs through it. I think I'm not the only one who would like to be part of the solution to the problem the state has identified, that we are drowning in our own solid waste. So I'm hoping the state level, League of California Cities, County of Siskiyou, Dunsmuir, and all the other small communities, tipping fees are going to get more and more expensive. Loading our plastic into the landfills, it does not degrade. It is going to end up in our water. It's going to end up in our food. And so I don't know what the collective community sense of responsibility is, but I don't think any of us are comfortable with not recycling at all, even if the state no longer is pushing us to do so. I hope we could do much better than that as a community for our children and our grandchildren. Thank you.
Thank you.
None of you guys even live in this town. You guys are keeping us broke. No, this town doesn't have any money. You guys just want to keep digging in our pockets. Can't buy food, can't do nothing. You guys want to keep raising prices. None of you guys even live here. You guys quit stealing from us. We're broke and we're poor. Tumbleweeds come down the street. Quit digging in our pockets.
Thank you.
I'm running in 2 years. Listen, 3 seats. We're coming to take over this place. You guys are bye. Get up there. I'm sick of this.
My name is
Oh,
Shauna.
we can,
Oh, I'm sorry.
sorry. If we can, yeah, no, you're good. If we can just keep public, yeah, thank you.
My name is Shauna Heilman. I live at 6118 Beverly Way here in Dunsmuir. And I did just want to bring to light some of the statistics for Dunsmuir. So I looked up the population of Dunsmuir for 2024 is only 1,622 people. There has not been any growth in this town for 4 years. And there are no projections for growth. The average income for Dunsmuir, men is $32,500. Female, $21,833 for Dunsmuir. The median family income is $42,500. I put together today a very limited budget. We're talking $50 cell phone. That budget was $2,795 for basics. It didn't include any extras, health insurance, medications, streaming, eating out. The average wage for somebody who makes minimum wage is $2,773 a month. For a basic budget, that's already a deficit of $22. Extras, $935. There's no way people are going to be able to afford that. I put together the jobs list for my job every week. There are 6 jobs listed in Dunsmuir. 6. One of which I know has been on this list for 1.5 years. How do you expect people to pay $100 a month for trash? I don't make a minimum wage. I'm a 2-person household. It's gonna be I'll know this. I just don't know how you can expect, I mean, we're not reflecting people who are on public assistance, people who are on Social Security. I just don't know how they're gonna do it.
30 seconds. Oh, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. My name is Matt Nagel. I've been at 4211 Willow Street, lived since 1974. I've been in this building a million times. Pretty much the same old stuff. Real quick, I'm against the proposal for this reason. The original proposal for to go to July 28 was a 249% increase. This newest one is a 52% increase on top of the 2 rate increases forthcoming for us till we have our sewer and water. My concern is this, when they went to the original increases for the water and sewer, our grade determined that I have 2 households. I'm paying sewer water bill for 2 households, even though my property was built in the 30s. It has 1 pipe in, 1 pipe out, and 1 building on the floor. Question is this going to be the same week for my garbage. I'm gonna be paying for 2 cans, 1 can, nobody seems to have matched it, so. As it stands right now, and I know this is not your doing, but you represent us and you're gonna take the brunt of it, so. I just wanna say that, I don't like it, but it is what it is. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
I don't like you either.
Thank you.
Hello, council. First, I want to thank you guys. My name is Joe Hatton. I live at 4605 Fawn Court, and I want to thank you guys for your service. I appreciate what you do. Not here to throw stones, but I do, in looking at the reasons for the proposed rates, don't agree with them. I sent you all a 2-page memo. I don't know if you received it. You guys received it? Hope you had time to read it. Again, I put in the thing that I'm a simple man and I don't really get involved with politics much, but looking at these numbers, and I'm no math expert, his figures were different than mine though, so one of us are wrong, but it looks like it's for the 65-gallon can per year from 2511, which is what we're currently paying, to 3114 is a $6.03 increase per month. So that comes out to 24% for the first year. Second year, another 24%, and so on. So I'm not opposed to a small increase. I understand things cost money. We have to, inflation, go to the store now, buy a gallon of milk, it's, $2 more than it was last year. But I think this is ludicrous, the amount, especially given the fact that we talked about already that new law is no more, questions about the street sweeper, that kind of stuff. So I think that we ought to take a pause, reevaluate this, and come up with a raise, yeah, but one that's appropriate. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just quickly, Debbie Spagnola again. I agree with what he just said. I think this whole thing tonight should stop. You need to reevaluate what you're putting out there and you just said the street sweeper's not in there no more. And why you guys switch wages around from here to there is totally ridiculous. And you need to revamp what it is. Garbage pickup is garbage pickup, plain and simple. You don't need to add all these other things in there. I mean, finances today are killing us. I think tonight's meeting should end with the hearing being tabled for another month and reevaluate. Let the people know what's going on. Let them know about that new law. I didn't know about it until tonight. And reevaluate and do it. Don't do this tonight. And I'm glad all this came out. And I hope more come out next time. More information, and I'll be out there putting flyers out to have people come. Thank you, and I hope you stop it tonight.
Thank you.
I'm William Maley, I live on Ramstetter. A lot of what I'm going to say has already been said tonight. We all feel the same way. Proposition 218 and using it to pass this rate increase is fundamentally undemocratic. The proposition was passed to protect citizens. You're using it to violate our rights and force a largely opposed rate increase. In 2019, Pace Engineering recommended removing the street sweeping and the tree trimming from the solid waste fund. There's no reason that should still have been in there for the new study to have mentioned. And at the same time, why are we buying a new street sweeper in 10 years? How many people you know that live in the city of Dunsmuir drive a car that's less than 10 years old? Look at the demographic here. We're not a rich city and we're not rich people. Why should we pay for a brand new street sweeper when not one of us drives a brand new car? Does that make any sense at all? Maybe we should think better about the budgeting approach and our standpoint on what we're doing here, because nobody agrees with what's happening. It's being forced through using a government proposition, and nobody that thinks it's fair. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Jimmy.
Hey, come on, stop.
Hi, my name's Patty Weber. I'm at 6200 Beverly Way. And I have more questions than statements. So reading this, besides understanding the changes or things are on hold with this SB 1383, I agree, let's figure this out and explain to us better how that impacts the rates and things that you're projecting. If it's on hold, then why do we need to change the rates now? Question. As far as the street sweeper, $500,000, I'm very curious, and I'd like to know maybe later, what are the current emission standards of the state of California? What are they imposing? I know that they're trying to get rid of gas-powered vehicles. Does that mean, are there such a thing as electric street sweepers? I don't know. That just made me wonder.
The reason is because they don't have a small device.
Tim?
Let's see. Part of the SB 1383 says there's an increase that they're requiring, increase edible food recovery by 20%. What if we don't have 20%? It just sounds kind of odd, these new requirements. What if we ate more of it? What if we give it to the homeless or to the animals instead of this 20% there? How does that affect our city? Just curious if the state is now requiring this. I have a boss, I work from home, and the company I work for is in Santa Clara, and they already went through the new requirements for the state. And in the building where they lease, they had to go through the training that if you have food waste on a paper, little food's on there, it goes in the waste for the food waste, organic. But if you have it on a plastic, then it goes into the regular garbage. So just curious if, when it comes up, what's the information that's gonna come out? What are we required? How do we handle this implementation when we have to start doing it? Those are some of my questions.
Thank you. Is there any other further public comment this evening?
Good evening, everyone. Reverend Jeannie Baker. Okay, well, the truth of the matter is the city's been lying to, and so has the council. They moved the funds around from your enterprise funds into the general fund, where they have paid already $71,000 to the Curtis Wright Law Firm in Orange County, who specializes in abatement and nuisance. And according to them, all of your properties are out of compliance. This gives them the ability to fine and put liens on your properties. There's a precedent, Buddhist versus the city of Fremont, California, where Dustin, who was fired from his last two jobs, because at the last one it was called the project, where they changed the codes, which we saw them do, for the purpose of fining and putting liens on your property. Look it up. Buddhist first. Fremont, California. Look it up. There's a precedent here. There's two other precedents too. So, as we know, on September 5th, one of the representatives of the solid waste company came and said, in no way do these rate increases, can they be anywhere near the amount of green waste, solid waste that this city produces. That there was no justification for this type of raise in your rates, people. None. No justification from the garbage company itself. What this city does, along with this council, is they're taking advantage of you by increasing your enterprise funds that then end up in the general fund, where they will continue to pay the Curtis Wright Law Firm in Orange County, to come against all of you for your properties, for your vehicles, and everything else. Every day when I go out of my house, people come up to me and they're crying. They're crying in this town. since Mr. Greif has taken over, an extremely mean-spirited has taken over this city. There are people sitting on your council who said, how do we get rid of all the old white people in their single-family homes so that we can
30 seconds.
redevelop Dunsmuir into a high-density city? Yeah, it's in black and white. It's been said. Think about that. How do we get rid of the old white people in their homes so that we can redevelop into a high-density city? How many people think that Dunsmuir is already a high-density city? Anyone? Yeah, we're already high-density. So think about those things tonight.
Time's up, Ms. Baker.
What's that?
I said your
Thank
30
you.
minutes are up.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah. Well, all right. Any other further public comment this evening? Anyone on Zoom, please signify by going to the reactions tab and raising your hand. Seeing none, I will close public comment on this item.
can I take the first on this?
Let me go to John here. What's the proper procedure? Counting ballots, discussion on council here.
Well, now's the time to count the ballots and see
Perfect.
if there's a majority protest or not.
All right.
While they're counting, can I answer something?
Let's take a recess. Yeah, we're going to take a recess to allow staff to
People can
count.
people can stay and watch the ballot.
Yeah, everyone can stay and watch if you'd like to. How long, John? How long would you suggest? 10 minutes?
10 minutes,
We'll-
yeah.
We'll reconvene at 7:45. All right, everybody. I'm going to restart the meeting. All right, can everyone turn their mics on? And
Drum roll.
Wendy, are you? All right, Wendy, are you ready to go? All right, with that, we will reconvene the meeting at 7:57. All right, and John, if you'd like to direct us into what to do next.
Counted the votes, there's 150 protest votes, and that assumes every one of them was right, and they were all counted, even if there were duplications. So, and a majority, what was necessary is 497.
Right.
So there is not a majority protest, and the city council should make that finding, and then we could go on to the next discussion.
Okay, sounds good. All right, Can
I make a statement?
Well, we'll have time to make statements during the main item.
Okay,
Yep.
main, okay.
So we're just going to be finding, so everyone knows, finding that there was not enough protest votes right now. There is a item, in two items, that will continue this item. So with that,
Mr. Mayor, I have a
Yeah.
suggestion. Why don't we see if we move that up right now so that the people that want to.
good idea. We'll do that. With that, we'll move, is there a motion to move that we find there was not enough
Motion
protest?
10 to go to 11 and 11 to go to 10.
Well, we need a motion to find that there was not enough protest votes first. Right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Right.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? None. All right, with that, Dave, if you would like to.
I'll make a motion that due to respect for the people that are here, that we swap on the agenda item 10, old business, and replace it with a new business, item A, and deal with it, item A, new business now, and then when we're done, we'll deal with 10, old business, item A.
Second. Lead me to it. All right, all those in favor? Aye. All right, we will be moving item number 11 first, which is Resolution 2407, approving an increase in solid waste rates for City of Dunsmuir. We've already gone over the staff report, so we'll just go into council questions.
I'd like to respond to a lot of the criticisms. First of all, I totally understand that we have a poor community and we need to be sensitive to that. But when you look at what we're talking about here, there are basically, and first of all, I want to clarify that we're only talking now about the first 2 years. So everything about recycling is no longer part of this. Everything about the street sweeper is no longer part of this. We're talking about 2 years, and the 2 years is to make up for the shortfall. And again, the shortfall was caused because we had a surplus, we brought it down, we should have caught it, we didn't, that's a mistake. But as far as what the costs are, there is no magic, no fooling around. How much does it cost for the contract with Clemens? We had a request for proposals. It was competitive. Other companies came in and bid on it. We picked the one that was the least expensive, Clemens. That's what that part of the cost is. We can't simply say, hey, we can't pay you because of our income level. We have to pay the bill. That's what this is. Take it, pay the bill. The other part, and this is what really comes into play as far as increases, is tipping costs. Tipping costs are what it costs to have the trash taken to the dump and dumped. We have to pay for that. And what happens is, especially with the cost of everything going up, is that tipping fees are going way the heck up. none of this, no money goes anywhere outside of this fund into the general fund. Never, ever, I've never seen it happen. Never. All this is saying, here's how much it costs to hire this company to take our trash away. Here's how much it costs for the tipping fees. If you talk about people being on the payroll for that, it's because every single thing where somebody does something gets a proportion taken out of the money. So the people that are working on that.
It just said, so for instance, one thing that Clemens doesn't do is pick up, I believe it's garbage in the parks and pick up the garbage cans through downtown. That's the city's responsibility to do. So we have city staff people who go and gather that garbage, take it to a dumpster, and then Clemens picks it up. So when you're looking at, staff wages and that kind of stuff, some of that is admin costs, as in generating the bill, sending stuff out like that. Others of it is gathering up the garbage in downtown. I was gonna touch on the street sweeping stuff here in just a minute. So I'll let you continue and then we'll circle back around and I'll finish up with that.
Yeah, I really just want to get across, I've been on 4 or 5 of these different things, and there's not a moment in time, at any point in time, that says, hey, maybe we could put this extra stuff in. Now, the street sweeper, that's an issue that we can look at in the future. We can talk it through, work it out. Same with recycling. But right now, we are simply saying, this is how much it costs to pick up the trash and get it disposed of. That's all this is. There's no other funny stuff going on. I wouldn't want it because I have to pay the same bills. Everybody that did this had to pay the same bills. There's not any sense that we're trying to move something around. You can look at the numbers and see that. So please understand that when we vote and do what we have to do, it's because we have a responsibility to pay the bills and run the city. That's all we're doing when we're bringing this forward. There's no joy whatsoever in it. It's nothing but pain from our standpoint, but it's our responsibility. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Can I make a comment? Yeah. Because maybe it's on point, but the notion, of course, is that we raise this money and we stick it in our back pocket, and front pocket, and put everything else. Prop 218 that started this process requires that the money be segregated, put in a special fund, and not used for anything else. Now, there's a naysayer say, well, yeah, that's just a game. Well, it isn't a game, because when we're audited, that's what's certain. There was a time, of course, when the enterprise funds were rated for cities, particularly the utilities funds. Not the solid waste never worked out that way, but water and electricity, cities had various ways of dipping into it for the general fund. That doesn't happen anymore. It can't. It's audited against now. If somebody wanted to try it, they're going to be in deep trouble. So maybe there's a lack of confidence in how government works, but I can assure you that's the case now.
Right, so I was just going to jump in here for a quick second. So the background, you just answer a few more questions and comments that came up during public comments during public hearing. Number one I wanted to go over is the legality of having street sweeping and tree trimming in the solid waste fund. Now, it was brought up in here that Pace Engineering recommended not having it in there. I believe it was 2018 or 2019 was the year. And at the time, that was good advice. The laws from the state on what is, there was some ambiguity on whether or not that could be in there. Since then, I believe the year was 2022 or 2023.
22, I think.
22, yeah. The state made some clarifications on what was allowed to be in a solid waste fund, because we're only allowed to put certain things in a solid waste fund. We can't just put anything we want in there. And they clarified that those things could be in that fund at that time. So that's why it's being talked about now as to why it can be in there. So since 2022, it has been allowed to be in there. So the other thing I wanted to just touch on here for a second is someone brought up the new street sweeper. For one, for those of you I know, because I saw a few people come in after we started the public hearing, we're only going over years 1 and 2 tonight. Because since AB 2902 was signed by the governor on the 22nd, which pushed back the state mandate on collecting, recycling, and organic waste. it made it so that way the last 3 years of the rate study are no longer valid. So we can only look at the first two. The only first 2 years, because that is what was necessary to cover the current deficit. The third year was to adjust for the state mandate, and then the fourth and fifth years were the state mandate, all the costs, and the potential of buying a new street sweeper. It was brought up, or CARD was brought up, and the state regulations on what we could or could not do. It's also been brought up on Facebook a few times that I've seen that, you know, the cost of a street sweeper. And it is true that you can buy a used street sweeper for cheaper than what was proposed in the rate study. Now, there's a couple things that complicate this since we're looking all the way out at 2028. And that is that we may not, as a city, be able to buy a used street sweeper in 2028. We may not be able to buy a used gas street sweeper in 2028. We may not be able to buy a new gas or diesel street sweeper in 2028. There may be a mandate to buy hydrogen or electric. On that note, there is electric street sweepers that are being made currently. The city of Capitola just bought one. And they are expensive, and so we have to, when we're looking as far as 2028, you know, we have to hope that we can get the cheapest option, but we have to prepare that we may not be able to. Fortunately, tonight, that's no longer anything we have to deal with, since we can't even consider the new street sweeper, since it was tied into those years where the state rate, where the state the state mandates screwed everything up, and so therefore we can't even consider either the street sweeper tonight. So I just wanted to answer that question, that there are electric street sweepers available these days. And you also asked why change the rates now. It's because there's currently a massive deficit, as Councilmember Deutsch brought up. The fund is basically losing, it's like $7,000 a week. So in order to correct that, the rates need to be changed now. We were stuck in a very unfortunate position where, because of that deficit, and because of how the rates not covering the costs, being so close to the state mandate of collecting recycling and collecting organic waste, really just drove those rates up. I mean, the original study, the final rate was like a ridiculous amount that I wouldn't have wanted to pay. I mean, I pay these rates the same as everybody else, we all do. I didn't want to pay those rates, but fortunately now, because of that state mandate getting pushed back to 2037, we don't have to discuss raising it up to $65 anymore. So that's not something that we have to talk about tonight. And I'm very, very happy the state saw the light and pushed that back. So,
yeah, I just wanted to clarify a few things. One of them that was mentioned of the recycling bins in town. I do agree with, I believe Peter left. Yes, we're in the middle of the study. Next thing is to try and figure out a solution for bringing recycling back. The contract, we were given basically a 2-week notice and said they're no longer picking it up. And so in order for us and the county to respond, we had to remove the bins and essentially drop the blue bag program. So we are working on that. And number 2, currently, in order for this fund to meet the reserve requirements, which we are audited on, we are at almost a $600,000 deficit. We are approximately 364,000 in the red right now. And so these rates are to kind of correct what Councilmember Deutsch and the other council members have mentioned and get us back on track. Because right now, the general fund is the one supplementing, and anything that comes out of the general fund impacts our roads and our ability to construct roads and things like that. So I just want to clarify those.
I've got one more clarification that I just want to make on street sweeping, why we do it as a city. Street sweeping is not just to make the road look nice and the roads look pretty. It may be for a city like Carmel or something like that, or Napa, that's their image, or that's what the citizens demand. The primary purpose of street sweeping in a city like Dunsmuir, and we're going to be seeing it, or we're seeing it starting now, is leaves, pine needles, twigs start coming off these trees in the fall. And those leaves have to go somewhere. And if they're not cleaned up off the streets, they end up in the storm drains, then the storm drains block up, and then instead of spending some money on street sweeping, we're spending a lot of money all winter doing emergency fixes and emergency repairs, going out in the middle of the night, unplugging drains, and in the long run, that costs a lot more than street sweeping. And one of my biggest complaints with government and how I've seen it work so much at the state is saving, or spending $1 to save $1. It happens so often in government. A great example of it, the fire lookout system. Those fire lookouts, if they prevented one air tanker from lifting off, they pay for themselves the entire year. But the fire lookouts are in CAL FIRE's budget, and the tankers come out of the emergency fund, which doesn't have a restriction. So of course they cut the budgeted number to make themselves look good, and then turn right back around and spend 10 times more money on air tankers. And if we did something like not have, I turned it back on. If we did something like not having street sweeping, what we would really be doing is spending less money now to spend a lot more later. And while our current street sweeper is working, and we can always sit up here and talk where we want to take the money out for street sweeping, I just wanted to go over with everyone for a little bit today of why it is so important for us as a city to have that as a service, because if we don't have it, it will cost us so much more in the long run. Anyone else who wants to address anything that came up in the public comment for the, no?
No, you did a good job.
Okay, with that, if there's any council questions or anything like that for staff or?
I would just like greater elaboration on MSW has confirmed that the rates for the first 2 years were not impacted by the purchase of a street sweeper or the implementation of SB 1383. Did we have any communication?
Yeah, we had after our discussion earlier this week, we had sent an email requesting, confirmation of that, and that is what they provided as a confirmation, was that no, the rate, the first 2 years are to help catch up to the deficit, and we're not, even with the first 2 years rates, we still don't catch up to the deficit. So for about 6 years or 7 years. So they are not related to the street sweeper or to the purchase of the street sweeper, I should rephrase that. And they're not related to the implementation of 1383, which was in 2020, beginning at, or FY 27.
I have a follow-up question, because I think it's painfully clear we need a new study that justifies forward-looking what the true costs are going to be. How long did it take to complete this study? I know council, seeing the deficit, I want to say it was 2 years ago that we formed the committee, 2+ years ago, perhaps, and started working on it. The consultant didn't come on until a little bit later, but I know one of the chief difficulties was trying to work out the costs of SB 1383. But could we maybe talk about what a new study timeframe might look like?
Yes. So, are you suggesting that if you did not approve anything tonight and went to a new study?
Well, regardless of what we do tonight, the city needs a new study.
Correct. Yeah. Before the end of the 2 years, we need a new study. Correct.
Well, I guess the simple question is, how long did it take to complete this study?
The consultant came on board in, I want to say this time last year. And then we brought that information to council, was that May?
I say like 9 months.
So it took, and then it was delayed. You guys had asked for more information, so we pushed it back about 45 days. So.
RFP was issued, no respondents.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
But then a question came up.
negotiate.
Then we got this person to come on board. So there is, I'll say, difficulty in getting and obtaining a consultant. But this consultant was.
If we move quickly to get a new study, I'm hopeful that parts of the old study are salvageable. All the data is there. We remove some of the pieces, in their system. I come up with something quickly, but
I would hope we could do it substantially quicker, because most of the data is already there. It's just a revision of pulling out. The expense data is there. It's just pulling out the proposed expenses for 1383 and then determining what the council wants to do with this upcoming need for a street sweeper.
Yeah, I'm torn between the common sense route, let's figure out what the true costs are and best way to spread it, and deep discomfort I've had for at least a year now with the deficit. You know, we need to be able to pay our bills.
Right.
So I'm trying to do, I'm leaning towards more of a shorter term solution with a new forward-looking plan.
I would,
in the near future, but.
I would expect if it, well, just from a process standpoint, if the council chose not to adopt a rate tonight, then we would have to go back through the 218 process, which means we would have to revise the study, and then we would have to do a new protest process, so about another 60 days, and then we come back to the hearing like we are tonight. So I would expect that we wouldn't see this back until February. So with a revised potential cost to the city in the red of another probably 50 to 60,000.
If I may, you need to remember this, you know, the state's not done with you. So we are projecting now what it would cost to do what the state will require. We're not sure what they're going to require. And you know, I sit through a lot of these hearings and I hear what the people say, hey, we can't afford this. And you know, you can't. And so you get angry at the city council. The city council isn't the one that's costing this. The state put these rules in place and then makes an artificial date of when they have to be done. And this isn't as a result of a long study and say, here's how we'll do it, and we'll get there by 19, whatever it is. They just set an arbitrary date and set the rules, and they tell the cities and the counties, we're not going to fund this because you have the ability to fund it through rates. And that's how we get to where we are tonight. And it happens when when the state changes its water quality things and we have to put millions of dollars into a water treatment plant that you have to pay for to make a marginal improvement in water. They don't hear the message that you can't afford this. And frankly, I mean, all of it's good to say, hey, who doesn't like clean water? Everybody likes clean water. And who doesn't like clean air? Everybody likes clean air. And who wants clean streets? Everybody wants clean streets. And who wants to pay for it? Whoops, didn't think about that. So that's how we get to where we are. And when we're projected, if we need to make a change in rates, we have to go through the process again. What we can salvage out of this rate study would depend on the timing and what is going on at that time, and what the state learns when they try to put this program in place that basically will never work. So.
But there is within this new law.
Yeah, but
Let me try to here.
some, yeah.
So,
But even when they put funding in it, for grants or loans, then you have to make up your share. So,
well, with that.
I'm sorry.
Is there any other council or staff questions or comments before we move into public comment?
No.
All right, with that, I'm going to open up this particular item for public comment. And same rules as before, 3 minutes, 30-second warning. Please limit your comments to this particular item. And we'll do individuals in the room first, followed by Zoom. Optionally, state your name and address for record. And one thing I didn't say the first 3 times, if you do state your name and address in the first sentence or so, I won't start your time until after you get your name and address on.
My name is Adam Heilman. I live at 6118 Beverly Way. And with all due respect to Mr. Kenny, who I have at least been familiar with for a very long time, hell hath frozen over, because the state did listen and they did push it back 10 years. So with that, I am totally in agreement with Councilman Bryan. If you are going to have to do a new study anyway, in 2 years, do it now. Get it right. Secondly, with Councilmember Deutsch, he made the statement that the only thing the solid waste fund is used for is the collection of garbage, and no money has ever been shifted to the general fund. Mr. Deutsch, could you tell me 5 years ago what paid for street sweeping? The answer is the general fund. How did that happen? The money got shifted. And all due respect to Mr. Kenny, I totally believe you that it is completely legal, but is it ethical? Is it moral? And is it in the spirit of what that fund was created for? That's my questions for you. It's very easy to fill deficits by being creative with funds. And maybe that's the right thing to do. I personally do not agree with it. I think that much of the deficit in the solid waste fund, at least partially, is contributed to by the moving of items such as the street sweeping, tree trimming, green waste days, things that were never intended. The fact that when you look in the report, and it shows that there's $83,000 of staff salary that is dedicated to solid waste, in addition to the additional $28,000 that's in administrative fees. It clearly shows that funds that were previously funded by the general fund have been shifted over from the enterprise fund. And so I'm anxious to hear if Mr. Deutsch still stands by his statement that the only thing that the money pays for is the pickup of garbage. I see that Diana Duran is on here, and so she can certainly verify what Clemens charges. And I totally agree that their bill should be paid 100% in full. So
Thank you, Mr. Humphrey.
those are my positions, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Hello again, Patty Weber, 6200 Beverly Way. Couple of questions, maybe you can refer where to look. I heard a $600,000 deficit is here with a $364K in red. So does that red mean that you're at a loss? Or does it mean there's outstanding bills that aren't paid? And is the deficit more of a budget item? Is it more on a budget that you have set aside that you're not in your goals? So I was just curious about that. And then a comment about the last one. I thought I heard separate from Clemens is also the city is responsible for pickup in the city and the park. So I think there are separate garbage collectors. So I think that's what I heard. So it's not all Clemens, just a comment of what I heard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dwight Bailey again, 596 Castle Avenue.
You want to get the microphone set while we take
There we go.
starts.
Okay. The bill would require the department to exclude residential, including in the Department of Low-Income Population or elevation waivers from the population in deterring a local jurisdiction's organic waste targeted thing. It also, I mentioned earlier, there's a possibility if you pass this as you're going to pass it tonight, we will be fined. And that will come out of the city. The other thing is, we talked about the deficit. Where did the $50,000 for the rate study come from? That's never been discussed. I don't know, but I do think on page 18 or 1920, it actually states that for low-income populations, there is funding going to be available. So knowing that there's funding going to be available, why are you charging us now for that? I don't think we caused the rate, that thing, but go ahead and pass it. But I'm going to say there's going to be repercussions for tonight's activity from the state if you do pass it as written.
Thank you. Is there anyone on Zoom who'd like to make a comment? If so, go down to the reactions tab and raise your hand. All right, seeing none, oh.
I would just like to say that I think there's many, many really intelligent people in this community who, if invited to do so, might be willing to submit ideas on how to deal with a lot of these things in a way that would be more beneficial to the entire community as a community. And I would like to encourage the council to put it out to the public to be able to get much more get much more feedback from the entire community. Give the community an opportunity to come up with some solutions that would be probably far less expensive and far more sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Tiris. I live at 1515. I forget my address, actually. I'm really tired. I've been up since 5 a.m. I live up on Castle Avenue, and this is a question which I know you'll ask after, your answer after. So what we're talking about is everything's been taken off the page except for the rate hike for the next 2 or 3 years, 2 years, and everything else has been taken off. And so if you could just, after I get off, you could just tell me what that is. And it may be so that things are super clean and transparent for the community and don't feel like that it's tabled and presented. Just an idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else this evening? Seeing no one, I will close public comment on this item.
Can I answer Adam? Can I answer Adam?
I can address a couple of those.
Adam, my answer is that when I was talking about all we're paying for, we're not talking tonight about the street sweeper and whether or not street sweeping is legal or not. That's not what we're trying to discuss right now. But what I'm saying is, for the next 2 years, what we're looking at is what the costs are to pay Clemens and to get the tipping fees. And the other part is that was mentioned is that, yes, there is money for people on staff, and that is for them to go around onto the parks and everything else and take care of the trash that then in turn gets taken out by Clemens. Those are the 3 things we're looking at tonight. We're looking at how are we going to pay the bill to Clemens, how are we going to pay the tipping fees that go to the county, and how are we going to pay the people inside here that do the work of that. That's all we're looking at tonight. So.
Okay, so what you're saying is that there will be no street sweeping billed to the solid waste.
There's no back and forth right now, but I will just say that actually, Bruce, there was some street sweeping. In the bill, in the solid waste fund moving forward, and that wasn't included in there. So it is currently, as proposed, moving forward, street sweeping in there, and I believe there has been some charges since 2022, so just the 1 fiscal year of street sweeping.
And how much did that contribute to the deficit?
We'll get there in just a second. I can answer that question.
So-
I'm gonna let you go first, and then I'm gonna come back around.
I can specifically ask the staff cost question. So $28,000 of the 80 whatever thousand is attributed to maintenance, and that maintenance includes taking care of picking up the trash cans, which is between 4 and 6 hours a week, as well as, you know, like our vegetation management day, you know, like when we do our green waste days, and which is attributes to overtime for some of our staff. And then also some of that does go towards street sweeping, but it's not, that doesn't cover nearly half the cost of what the actual maintenance is. The rest of the salary is associated with internal staff that are conducting the billing and addressing customers at the front counter. Just so that is separate. But if we look at only the maintenance staff, all the maintenance staff is attributed as of their total salary is 5% of every employee. So like 6 employees, 5% of their workload is associated with solid waste. The rest of it is attributed to all the rest of the funds, general fund and sewer and water. Oh, and I had the one on the deficit question. So in order to get to the number that's near 600,000, so our current fund balance is approximately negative 364,000, and our required reserves as per council policy is 25% of our annual expenditures, which is approximately just shy of 200,000. So that would bring us right close to the 600,000 mark. And we're losing approximately between $7,000 and $8,000 a month, depending on the month. It's a month. Yeah, you don't want it to be, trust me, you don't want it to be a week. That's okay.
Yeah, you're right. So I just want to put this out there, because I did look at this number and I just brought it up for reference. So, pulling up the 2018-2019 budget, which is 2018 was the year that the rates were lowered in order to decrease the fund. Just going back to the difference in scale between the stuff like street sweeping, the stuff like tree trimming, collecting the garbage downtown, and the garbage hauling and tipping, and how those two contribute to the current fund deficit, is on the 2018 deficit, it was budgeted to be around $265,000 just for trash collection and fees. And since I wasn't here in 2018, in the current budget, we split trash collection contract and the tipping fees separately. Since in the 2018 budget, it only is trash collection, I'm going to assume that that includes the tipping costs. Currently, the number for those numbers are closer to 500 or over 500,000. I think it's 408 for the contract and 115 for tipping, if I'm remembering correctly. I don't have that number in front of me, so that may not be completely correct. I might be a little off on that, but just I've looked at these numbers a lot in the last month or two, and those are the two numbers that I'm recalling right now. If they may be off, but it is nearly double, if not over double, just the garbage hauling since the rates were lowered. And when the rates were lowered in 2018, it was specifically designed to decrease the amount of money that was in that fund. It was to lower the reserves. So it was designed to lose money when we were spending half on garbage getting taken away. So per year, I mean, everything contributes a little bit. Everything is contributing to that deficit. The current deficit. But if we're going to say what contributed the lion's share, it is that massive increase in costs when the contract was redone with Clemens. And there was another bidder that came in again to bid against Clemens, and they were significantly more expensive. It was, I believe, John Smith Sanitation, and they were significantly more expensive than Clemens.
And they did less services.
So we went with the cheaper option. And so if we're really looking at where the true problem of that deficit has come from, it isn't from sending one employee around 1 or 2 days a week for 9 months out of the year to do street sweeping. It's just that massive increase in costs. I know just the tipping fees at the dump, that was so badly managed that the county took it over from the operator. And the county is running it now. And that's where this deficit came from. It's not just, to answer your question, did adding solid waste and tree trimming in there add a little bit to it? Sure. But is it the reason that fund is in that massive deficit? Absolutely not. I also just have to bring up the fact that one of the people we hired in the last couple of years is certified to do most tree trimming work. So while yes, I did add a little bit, well, whether that was in the general fund in the past and when that got moved in there, I can't answer as I've only been on council for the last 2 years. But what I can answer for you is that the amount we're spending on tree trimming now is a lot smaller now that we have someone who can do it in-house versus going and contracting it with a company. So overall, we have saved the city money on tree trimming versus what we were spending 5, 10, 15 years ago. Well, with inflation, we're saving that, obviously, not without inflation. But it's a very complex situation, and the vast majority of this is coming from that huge increase in the fees and funds and the tipping fees. So I hope that did provide a little bit more clarity for everyone.
Are you still gonna borrow money on this stuff?
So, through the chair.
Are we still borrowing money from one fund?
Through the chair, just because we're at comment and not public comment. One of the things that was brought up was low-income waivers and low-income rates. And so just to clarify, first off, so the Prop 218 process states that we have to treat all users fairly, and so we can only have one rate for the bins itself in this circumstance. So we can't have in the 218 a low-income rate or a moderate or base that off of income. We're not allowed to do that under 218. What we are allowed to do, and we've talked about this at previous meetings, is we can institute a waiver program of our own that utilizes general fund through a specific process. There's a number of cities that have been doing this, and we've talked about instituting that type of program for a number of years now. We just didn't have the reserves within our general fund to be able to do a large enough program to subsidize that. And that would basically be general fund going into an enterprise that would then go to a user to subsidize it through low income measures. The city of Wairika has a program like that. It's just the operating procedures that we have to operate through. One of the things that was mentioned is that there may be state appropriations as well that may go out to low income individuals and low income households through the new assembly bill, which I haven't read the entire thing at this point. But I'm hoping that that ends up happening. One of the other things that we could be eligible for in one of the programs, not necessarily at the next item on our agenda, which is 10A, but the community development block grant funding also does have some subsidies for low-income households that the city could apply for example, snow removal programming, solid waste or utility assistance. So like, for example, ARPA, which was funding that came out through COVID. A lot of that ARPA funding was funded through Great Northern Services for people who are having issues paying their utility bills. And so there are other funds that we can pull from, but it is a grant-based system if we're not going to use general funds as our own internal grant-based program. But unfortunately, the 218 process is really clear that we can't do it within the rate study or within this vote. But I know that this group has talked about doing a rate, a low-income utility relief fund is typically what they're talked about, and just putting that program together and having enough general fund to be able to fund all of the people who would need that program. So it is something that I'd like to bring back to the council for consideration. I just haven't had a chance to get it through to bring back in its full-fledged form, but my understanding is there is some surplus this year that we could funnel into that program. So, thank you.
All right. And then just for everyone's information, part of the plan in order to reduce that deficit does include money, does include moving money from the general fund into the sewer fund. It was structured as a loan.
Solid waste.
Did I just say general fund to general fund?
Sewer.
Fund. It's 8:40, it's been a long day. From the general fund into the solid waste fund. Initially structured as a loan, that is a complex, or to bring it back up there. And I just wanted to point this out as in terms of bills being due, or nothing has not gone unpaid. Basically, the bill comes into the solid waste fund, and then the general fund just covers that. So, So nothing has gone unpaid or anything like that. It's basically just been subsidized out of the general fund.
You book a loan? You've been booking a loan? You said,
Yeah, unfortunately, the Brian Act doesn't allow back and forth, but I will more than happy to answer your question after.
That's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Free to come talk to me.
Yep. Anything else, or is there a motion of any type?
Come talk to me. Happy to answer questions.
Do we have a resolution number?
7, but if I may, I'd like to read the resolution in full. I know
Okay.
we typically only do it by title, but there was a request also to clarify the rates that would be impacted. So, motion to approve resolution number 2024-07, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Dunsmuir to increase rates for solid waste services. Whereas the City Council commissioned a rate study that reviewed current rates and needs of the solid waste utility now and in the next 2 years. And whereas the solid waste rate study prepared by MSW Consultants was used as the basis for this update to the solid waste rates. And whereas the Solid Waste Committee, Finance Committee, City staff, and City Council have agreed that the solid waste rate increases are necessary to maintain health and safety of the citizens and comply with state mandates. And whereas the committees and the City Council have found that the proposed rates are equitable and fairly distribute the burden of system costs among customers. And whereas all meetings of the committees and City Council to consider the solid waste rate study were noticed and open to the public. And whereas in accordance with the provisions of state law, a notice of public hearing was mailed to all property owners regarding the proposed rate increases, and in accordance with City Council direction was also mailed to all customers. And whereas the noticed public hearing was held on October 3rd, 2024, and there were insufficient protests to prevent the resolution to be adopted, now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Dunsmuir as follows. Section 1. The solid waste rates are shown below hereby adopted and to be effected throughout Dunsmuir as of November 1, 2024, and subsequent years as shown. Table 1, recommended solid waste rates. Description, 65-gallon can, current rate, $25.11. Adjustment effective 1 November 2024, $31.14. The rate for July 1st, 2025 would be $38.61. Description, 95-gallon can, current rate, $36.93. Adjustment effective the 1st of November, 2024, $45.79. Effective July 1st, 2025, $56.78. 1 yard dumpster, current rate $84.51. Oh, thank you. You can all see it there. I'm going to keep reading it just so that it's recorded in the record. I apologize if that's mundane, but it's, yeah. So adjustment for the 1 yard dumpster, adjustment effective November 1, 2024, $104.79. Effective 1st of July, 2025, $129.94. 1.5 yard dumpster, current rate $93.94. Effective 1st of November 2024, $116.49. Effective July 1st, 2025, $144.44. 2 yard dumpster, $137.15. Adjustment effective November 1st, 2024, $170.07. Effective 1st of July 2025, $210.88. 3 yard dumpster, current rate is $174.38. Effective adjustment November 1st, 2024, $216.23. Effective July 1st, 2025, $268.13. Medical dumpster, current rate is $55.41. Effective adjustment November 1st, 2024 is $68.71. Effective July 1, 2025 is $85.20. Section 2, any rates and fees of the city for solid waste which have therefore been affixed by ordinance or resolution which are inconsistent with or in conflict with any of the rates and charges set forth herein are hereby repealed and rescinded to the extent of their inconsistency, effective November 1, 2024. Section 3, CEQA exemption, the approval of said sewer rates that should be amended to read solid waste rates. and fees by the City Council is exempt from the requirements of the California Environmental Quality Act under the provisions of Public Resource Code Section 21080B8, and this council makes this claim of exemption pursuant to said section an authorized claim of exemption to be filed with the appropriate agencies. Section 4, validity, that if any section, subsection, sentence, clause, or phrase in this resolution or the application thereof to any person or circumstances is for any reason held invalid, the validity of the remainder of the resolution or the application of such provision to other persons or circumstances shall not be affected thereby. The City Council hereby declares that it would have passed this resolution in each section, subsection, sentence, clause, or phrase thereof, irrespective of the fact that one or more sections, subsections, sentence, clauses, or phrases, or the application thereof to any person or circumstance be held invalid. Section 5, inconsistencies. All resolutions or parts of resolution inconsistent with this resolution are hereby repealed to the extent of inconsistency. Section 6, published, that the city clerk shall certify the passage of this resolution and cause the same to be posted at designated sites within the city. This resolution was considered at a public hearing on October 3rd, 2024, and was adopted by the City Council of the City of Dunsmuir by the following vote.
So before we move, I have a question that might lead to a slight amendment. So you said at the earliest we could potentially have, at the earliest, which is, no, never happened, potentially another 218 early next year.
If you're projecting that if this is not approved, the projection of when that would come back to council?
Well, more where not quite. But so say if we went out to bid on another, or we started the 218 process, because right now this only covers us for 2 years. So I'm just.
Correct.
Yes. We need to do one soon. So what I'm thinking is, I had an interesting conversation in the hallway. Brought up some good points on, since this was changed from the original 218, on how exactly that affects this whole process. Now, I also ran and was elected on a platform of financial responsibility. So I do believe we need to address this as quickly as possible. And I think a potential way to balance getting people the best information and the best product is to come, I think there is a decent compromise here, which is we approve the first year and then go for a 218 and try to have that process completed before the next rate would go up in July.
Did you just make me verbatim read a resolution?
I'm going to only amend one little part of it.
So I would have to, in order to involve the consultant, we'd have to, one, renegotiate what that cost would be to amend the study in accordance with all of the varying factors because of why we're not adopting the second 3 years, or made that recommendation. So I'd have to do that, and then have to bring that back to council. So I would probably potentially would have that back to council by December. Then we would dig back into the data and hopefully be able to turn that back around and bring it back to the council for probably early February, just due to the holidays. And then that would start the 45-day period that we would have for the protests. And so then we would be looking at potentially April.
Maybe.
So, I mean,
even if we're 3 months off on that, we'd still be there before that July 1st.
yeah, I wouldn't want to be too close to the July 1st date, but yeah.
Okay.
Is it possible? Yes. I prefer to say 2 years, but I understand your point.
My thought on that is that if we simply go ahead right now and pass this, we'll be moving in the right direction, we'll be collecting more money. And if we want to, we can then take another year to look at the larger picture. But by getting this in tonight, that'll stop the hemorrhaging to a degree, and we can come back even before next year and have a 2, 3, 4 year, whatever we want to do. But I think it would be best tonight just to stop the hemorrhaging and to pass this tonight. That's my thought.
If you do adopt at a 2 year, as she read the resolution, I would probably push the timeline to sometime around January 1st of 2025. 2025 or 2026 before we would come back and adopt the second round of, to address the additional years that are not a part of the 2 years. So it would push the timeline out just a little bit, but it wouldn't push it out that much, about 9 months difference. Because we also have to do a budget in the middle of all this too.
Yeah. That's a good point. Do the budget.
Well, I will second the motion.
With the friendly amendment of saying solid waste instead of sewer.
Yeah.
All right, it has been moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Keisler,
No.
Councilmember Deutsch,
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan,
I strongly am leaning towards the 1 year, so I'll vote no.
Councilmember Lucchese.
Just really quick, Councilmember Keisler, did you also want the 1 year?
Yeah, I do the 1 year, but
Do you want the 1 year?
if you do it.
You want the 1 year?
It's gonna be another study.
Okay, that's,
But I ain't
are
laughing on
you
this.
okay, Councilmember
fine.
Deutsch, to amend
Yeah,
that this
just
would?
going 1 year, that's fine. That gives us a year to get ready for the next one, and we can work through all these issues. I'll second that with amendment.
So we'll friendly amend the motion to remove that far right column. So adjustment effective July 1, 2025 will be removed.
So for most people, it will be a $6 increase a month.
Well, it'll just be 1 year change, yes. Yes. So I'm fine with that friendly amendment. Could we please redo the roll call, Wendy, on the friendly amended motion?
Who made the motion for the friendly amendment?
I did.
And then seconded by Keisler?
No, seconded by Bruce, because it was our motion.
Councilmember Keisler.
On this one, yes.
Councilmember
Yes, 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 yes.
Deutsch? Councilmember Bryan? Councilmember Lucchese?
Aye.
Mayor Clarno?
Aye.
All right.
We have
Motion
paid the
passes,
bills.
I just wanted someone to make a motion, because I would like to.
All right, 10A, old business, community development block, and everyone will be happy, this one should be a quick one. Community development block grant resolution to apply for 2 grant programs, housing rehabilitation, code enforcement, and storm-based planning. Because this is just where,
Blake's over there.
it's he's doing his staff. Or
They
he-
do it?
You've been running around here.
I actually don't know what the staff report is, but it's been essentially a CDBG grant that you guys have already done, but we needed to revise it a little bit. And so as people are leaving, I do just want to mention that all this financial talk really was exciting. And so if anybody wants to come to the finance committee meetings, I know we haven't had them in a while. We'll talk about changing these microphones out. Yes, and anybody, anytime, just come email me or call me, and I'm happy to answer any financial questions. CDBG, you guys already did this thing? So I think the only amendments you can see there in the background discussion, I don't need to go through them all. It's also, the main thing that the mayor will be happy about is that he will no longer be the one to press the submit button. It'll be me, because there's red tape to go through. So it is up to the council that if you do want that, if you are okay with myself being the submitter, that's fine. Mayor still needs to sign.
And that's basically all this is we already approved this, it's just, they used their default form, and we didn't see that the mayor is supposed to be the person in their form who goes and presses the button to submit, when that should be the finance director. So that's what we're doing tonight. We've already passed this, it's just changing the contract, so that way the appropriate person is doing the appropriate job, because just to press a button to submit all of this, so, yeah.
Let's go.
All right, any questions before we move to public comment?
No.
All right, with that, I'll open this up to public comment, 3 minutes, 30-second warning, same rules as always. Any public comments?
Looking at the application here, can you explain two things on the, there? And that is, in this grant, you're gonna ask for code enforcement PI of $100,000 and code enforcement grant of $25,000. Can you explain that is all? And also explain the $400 for a HR contractor for $400,000. How's that going to refab houses?
And is there any other public comment on this item? Seeing none, I will close public comment.
I don't necessarily have an answer, Dwight. Come talk to me after, because I couldn't quite understand it all, but I definitely do, or can answer that PI stands for Program Income, which is simply dollars that the city has received from a CDBG grant already. So it's dollars Dunsmuir has received that we have to allocate out in a CDBG program. So that's all that PI stands for. But the other questions, come talk to me, because I don't know.
I did hear a little more question, and what I believe it was when we voted on this the first time, is this is a CDBG grant designed to assist people, specifically low-income people, who have gotten into code enforcement. So say you need to do this for your house, they go, I can't afford that. The code enforcement person can go, well, good thing for you, you can go down to City Hall, fill out this form, get some money to help them get out of code enforcement by fixing the property. So it's basically a way for people to get into code enforcement, to be able to get money to help with the repairs to get out of it.
All right.
All right.
A motion to adopt resolution 2024 XX, a resolution approving an application for funding and the execution of a grant agreement and any amendments thereto from the 2024 funding year of the state CDBG program, which will supersede resolution 2024-11.
Second.
I'll give it to
No
Bruce.
longer has to sign something.
I'll give it to Bruce.
Huh?
I'll give it to Bruce. He can have a second.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, future agenda items.
There's a lot.
Another one?
There's a lot.
It's not necessarily an item, but I'd love to, well, I'll talk to you guys about it. So,
I'd like to talk about James McIntyre one more time.
I would love to see more of the 88 hearings.
And I would like to move forward snow
I
removal.
would like us to consider how we handle our RFPs and when we get the proposals in, because I've experienced on my time in council anything from open session with every last applicant at city council, which is a little chaotic and probably too much work. Yeah, no, but maybe come up with a policy for how we decide these things, because I haven't been overly pleased with council being completely out of it until we get the finalist and just the finalists there. I don't know, well, maybe I'll come back with some research on the subject on if the cities have policies for how to do it regularly, because I've experienced a great inconsistency in how we do it here in Dunsmuir. And I think either extreme is probably not the best way to do it.
Right, I move to adjourn.
Second.
Meeting adjourned.